All right, clap it up, clap it up, clap it up. All right, all right. This is One West News Desk, ISUPK Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge. Started out of One West, 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under commanding General Yohana. We've been bringing this truth since 1969. And what is that truth? That truth is the so-called blacks, so-called Hispanics, and so-called natives are the true biblical Jews of the Bible, and our oppressor is the devil that the Bible speaks of. This is One West News Desk coming out of Baltimore, headed by Captain Saparia. And I'm under Captain Saparia. I'm Officer Matham Shikaria. I'm holding it down for Captain Saparia until Captain Saparia gets back. He's taking a vacation, you know. And that, what do we talk about on One West News Desk? We talk about news that's going on right now. We talk about a little national news, a little, international, a little local news, whatever's going on, whatever's happening, you know. Tonight, I want to talk about, I know everybody's talking about, or a lot of people know about that, the Pope passing, and it's a devastating thing to the slaves. You understand? It's a devastating thing to the slaves that the Pope died, one who's supposed to bring truth and justice to America. You understand through that, what is that? The Christianity, through the Christianity religion. You understand? But we all know that Christianity has only destroyed our people. You understand? And it's been a big thing. He passed on, what that was, that the day after their unholy holiday, Easter, that they have. You understand? He passed on that day. I want to read this little article we got right here, because this is a funny article. You understand? And from a oppressor's point of view, this article has been written. But you have to understand, our oppressor does not hold himself guilty nor accountable for the wickedness that has been done. You understand? And if you know anything about history, Christianity was spread, with the sword, by the sword. You understand? That's the only way Christianity was spread. You understand? In medieval times, you understand that Catholic Church would go to different countries, you understand, or different islands or different places where people knew nothing about Christianity. And they would go into those places, and the thing that they would do first is they would send in, you understand, the popes and the what do they call them, the priests and things like that, monks and things like that, to go in and soften up the people and try to get the people to convert over into Catholicism or Christianity. You understand? And if the people didn't, the popes and the priests and the monks, they would leave. And then right after they would leave, then in would come the murderers and the destroyers. You understand? In would come, you understand, the killers. And they would try to beat them into submission. And in trying to beat them into submission, if they would not submit, they would burn down the whole city, town, or village and move on to the next one. Well, in a sense, that's how democracy is spread today. So democracy and Christianity are intertwined. We have to remember that. We have to understand that democracy and Christianity are one and the same thing. They're both spread the same way. They're both spread by the sword. America spreads democracy by the sword, by going in and bombing countries, by destroying countries, by unaliving people. You understand? Democracy has never been a good thing. Even in its inception in the Roman Empire, democracy was never a good thing. The poor people suffered and the rich people got richer by the sword. You understand? So I'm going to go into this article and read this article. You understand? As I said, the Pope passed, Easter Monday. You understand? Pope Francis, voice of the poor, Listen, Christianity has always proclaimed to be the voice of the poor, but has never done anything for the poor, but made the poor poorer. You understand? With a ER on the end, poorer. You understand? Pope Francis, the voice of the poor, who transformed the Catholic Church. What did they transform the Catholic Church into? What did they transform the Catholic Church into? The Catholic Church is the same thing that it has always been. It hasn't changed. There's nothing different about the Catholic Church. They talked about, listen, it says Pope Francis, voice for the poor. What did Pope Francis say that he became the voice for the poor? What did Pope Francis do for the poor? If he did nothing for the poor, how could he be the voice of the poor? Pope Francis is the voice of the rich and famous. You understand? And that's, like I said, that's how Catholicism was spread, just like democracy, by the sword. It says Pope Francis, voice of the poor, who transformed the Catholic Church, dies on Easter Monday. Ain't that a beat? Huh? On Easter Monday. It says Pope Francis, the voice of the poor, who overcame fierce resistance to reshape the Catholic Church. Think about it, right? It says he overcame fierce resistance to reshape the Catholic Church. Has the Catholic Church been reshaped? Can somebody tell me? Somebody tell me how the Catholic Church was reshaped. All of those priests that were essaying children, little boys and girls, they just got sent to another church. That's all that happened. I don't ever remember hearing of a Catholic priest who went to prison. Has anybody heard of that? Has anybody heard of a Catholic priest or anybody, a bishop or anybody going to prison? So somebody tell me, how did he overcome? How did he reshape the Catholic Church? The Catholic Church is the same as it's always been. The destroyer of so-called blacks, Hispanics, and natives. Listen, these other nations can have the Catholic Church. That's what they deserve. They deserve somebody to take advantage of them. They deserve somebody to unalive. Think about this too. The Catholic Church was part of the unaliving of millions of native children when the Americas was taken over by the oppressor. They found in Canada, in a bunch of those, what do they call those schools? Those schools that they were boarding schools. In the boarding school, they found the bodies of native children in droves out the back of those old boarding schools. If you ever get a chance, it's a show that comes on, it's called Yellowstone, and they depict that story excellently of how evil and how brutal the Catholic Church was. Yellowstone. If you watch that show, they got it's a whole section in that show that depicts the Catholic Church and how brutal and how evil they were and how they went to any extent to destroy our people. That Catholic Church has never been a good thing in our eyes. It says he reshaped the Catholic Church. He died on Easter Monday at the age of 88 in the Vatican. If I'm not mistaken, he wasn't even Pope for what, about 4 or 5 years? Because the other one had lasted about 70 or 80 years. Just hogging it up. I think he lived till he's about 199. Then he comes right in, only get about 4 or 5 years. He said this was the first Hispanic pope. But if you look at him, you know he's a Spaniard. a Spaniard. There'll never be a Hispanic pope. If you follow Catholicism, you follow Christianity, you are destroyed as a people. Hey, listen, I'm saying that because I was one at one time. My family, we grew up in the Catholic Church. I know the evils of the Catholic Church. Not firsthand though. I'm gonna have to say that can I say I was protected as a child? That's what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna say I was protected. I guess I could say, can I say I was blessed not to go through some things, because we did have people at our church that actually happened to. I guess it's because I had a bunch of assholes as family members, and I guess they could have been scared of my uncles, all of my uncles. So it probably was that. You understand what I'm saying? But I was blessed enough to be able to navigate through that and then look back and say, wow, you understand the Catholic Church is an evil place. You understand? And I remember, this is just a story. I don't want to get too far off, but it's a story, I remember when we were in Catholic church and we used to have to go, and see the Catholic priest. And then you had to say all these little Hail Marys and all that type of stuff like that. You understand? And, you be in there with the priest by yourself. And I can understand how things could happen. Just looking back, the weird things that they did. You understand what I'm saying? The things that they did, you look back and then you look back and see, and then you start to wonder, like, when you saw all the LGBTQ in there as a child, then you start to think and wonder, like, how did that, maybe that's how that happened to them. You understand? Catholic Church is a wicked place. Look, the article says the Pope passed away the morning after the holiest day in the Christian year. And they're right. That's the holiest day in the Christian year. You understand? That's not the holiest day in the 12 tribes of Israel. Our holy day is the Passover. That's our holiest day, is the Passover. You understand? But for evil people, that's the holiest day in that Christianity. Look at the timing. That was hell of a timing too, to pass away on that day. An evil day for an evil person. You understand? It says, when the world's 1.3 billion Catholics celebrate the resurrection of Christ, despite his poor health, Francis was seen a number of times in public at the Vatican during Holy Week, culminating in an Easter Sunday appearance where he delighted crowds at St. Peter's Basilica in Rome. So he was healthy. I wonder, you never know, they could have probably, I don't know, unalived them. Who knows? They might have wanted to get somebody younger up in there. You understand? You ever seen that movie? What's that movie that Tom Hanks played in? Where they looking for the, not Tom, I don't think that was him. That's not the movie. But anyway, who knows? They're gonna get somebody younger up in there, somebody to last another 100 years and destroy other, everybody that comes into Christianity and Catholicism. You understand? That's all they're gonna do. Let somebody else come in and continue to do the things that they do. But this Catholic Church is really, and this Christianity is really being exposed now. The veils are beginning to be pulled from the eyes of the people now. The veils are beginning to be pulled back. And people are starting to recognize that this Christianity and this Catholicism is a wicked thing. A wicked thing. They say the Catholic, the Pope is supposed to be the closest, the only thing, what's that? The first thing under God. That's what the Catholic Church say. This is why they go there and they wait for him to come out on that balcony, and they begin to worship him. They begin to worship him. That's what they do. That's why people travel from all over the world. If you notice, every time there's a president always has to go and see the Pope. They got pictures of President Bush, both Bushes, President Clinton. They got pictures of Obama. All of them have taken. I'm pretty sure Trump been. He was selling Bibles his first term, wasn't he? He's selling Bibles. I know he was there. I know he went and shook or kissed the ring or something. You understand? Like I said, all of that, this democracy that we live in is connected, wholeheartedly connected to Christianity, to Catholicism. Like I said, that's how Christianity was spread by the sword, and that's how democracy is spread by the sword. You understand? Francis was seen a number of Holy Week, culminating Easter Sunday. The Pope's death was announced with deep sorrow by Cardinal Kevin Farrell. The Vatican Carmelingo, I don't know what that means, but oh well, who said Francis died at 7:30. Hey, listen, they must have been sitting there with a timer and a heart monitor watching them to see exactly what time. It says 7:35 a.m. local time, 1:35 a.m. Eastern time. Until a new pope is chosen, Farrell acts as the head of the Vatican. With immense gratitude for his example as a true disciple, a true disciple of the Lord Jesus Christ. How did it, listen, how do these people elect themselves as disciples of Christ? They just elect themselves. Just like in Christianity, when men elect themselves as bishops, you understand? Bishops and all of that, pastors, they just elect themselves. I was called. Called by who? Called by who? Commanding General Yohanan never called any of you. You didn't come up under this school. You can't be called if you didn't come up under the ISUPK. But they said they were called. With all of the things that they've been doing, from the TD Jakes, the Creflo Dollars, what's that other one? Eddie Longs and all of them, all of the things over the years, Jamal Bryant and all of them. Stealing, robbing, destroying the lives of the people of the children of Israel, of the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and natives. How? Who called them? They called themselves. They called themselves because they can recognize a payday. Listen, 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 3 says what? Let no man deceive you by any means. And when a man steps up and calls himself a bishop and says he was called, you have to test that spirit. That's the problem with us as a people. We don't test the spirit. We just automatically believe. Oh, he's a holy man. I believe. I mean, think about it, right? People can be so blind that a pastor can say, I need $65 million for a jet. And the people dig deep. But you can see homeless people up and down the street in tents, encampments. And never go in your pocket and never think a word, turn your head, act like you don't even see him. The Bible tells us, let no man deceive you by any means. Matter of fact, I want to pull that. Let no man deceive you by any means. And we are deceived every day. We stay out, we keep our seat, we keep those seats in Christianity warm. We get deceived every day. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 3. Let no man deceive you by any means. I mean, you're supposed to question. Catholic Church don't let you stand up and question anything they say. You just have to believe. Christianity doesn't allow you to step up and ask any question. You just have to believe. They stand back and they talk. That's it. No questions. Any questions? They don't do that. So how can you test the spirit? How can you know if they're not lying? How can you know if you're not being deceived? You can't stand up, you can't question, you can't ask, they can't give you an answer. That's not the place to be. This is the reason why we destroyed like this. This is the reason why our brothers in Central and South America are so destroyed. This is the reason why Judah, the tribe of Judah, so-called blacks in America, this is the reason why we so destroyed. Our brothers in the Caribbean islands, the Trinidad and all of that, Jamaica and all of that, this is the reason why we so destroyed. Because we have been deceived. By every means, we have been deceived. This Catholic Church, this Pope, this Christianity has totally destroyed us as a people. Totally. So much so we believe we are Americans. We believe we are Spanish. We believe we are one big melting pot where we all got to get along. Can't we all just get along? How many times are we going to say that? That's just like marching. How many times are we going to march? How many times are we going to believe in marching? How many times are we going to think about it? How many times are we going to believe in voting? That's Christianity. How many times are we going to believe in marching? That's Christianity. That's Catholicism. How many times are we going to believe in hope and change? That's Christianity. Hope and change. They can tell us anything. We get deceived by anything. Nowhere can you go and ask questions about this Bible, but right here in the UPK. They don't allow. Think about this, right? TD Jakes got thousands of parishioners. Creflo Dollar, thousands. They fill stadiums. And nobody questions. Nobody's prospering. Think about it. Everybody's working hard to pay them. If you think about it, right? They're making billions. They're making billions. What have they built for the people? What have they given to the people? What thing of substance have they given to the people? Hope and change. That's that Obama hope and change. Well, you got to dig deep. You got to dig deep. You got to believe. You got to believe. Listen, when I was down and out, all I did was believe. I took my last $100. That's how they always get you. It's like a pyramid scheme. It's like to have this thing. What's that thing that they used to sell? ISO tea with all this other bull crap. A pyramid scheme. You come in and you do this, you give this amount, and then you can give this amount, or you can sell this and boom, 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 boom. But you can make it easier if you bring two people in and you get them to make a payment of this, or boom, 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 and then they bring in and then you give them, boom, boom, boom. Whole pyramid scheme. That's all Christianity is. That's all democracy is. That's all it is. It's a big pyramid scheme. Think about it. The person at the top is the only one that gets paid. Everybody else continues to feed. Everybody else is feeding the cow, feeding the cow, feeding the cow. One person at the top get paid. That's it. Then when Eddie Long passes away, then they move in Jamal Bryant. Now he's at the top getting paid. Now he at the top getting paid. What are they doing? And then think about it. It moved from Eddie Long. It moved to Jamal Bryant. Now, what has Jamal Bryant done for the people? What has Creflo Dollar done for the people? What has T.D. Jakes done for the people? But gave that actor act like he was falling out on stage. He gave a serious act. I bet that he gave that. You notice now they trying to connect with the people. Now they trying to dress it down and make it look, oh yeah, we one of y'all. We just like you. No, they not. They are of their father, the devil. You understand? They just like him. Listen, it's white devils, but we got some black devils too. Any man that follows our oppressor is just like his father, the oppressor. He's a devil. What's up, Gana? Checking in from where? Oh, from Baltimore. My man. That's what's up. Who's that? Adolphus Last? That's right. What's up? What's up? You understand? Think about it, right? Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come. What day are they speaking about? A day. What day are they speaking about? Somebody tell me. What day is he speaking about? I'm talking about 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 3. And like I said, you grab that for me. Somebody let me know, what are they talking about when it says, for that day shall not come? And it says in this article, with immense gratitude for his, let me see, did I skip over something? Yeah. With immense gratitude for his example as a true disciple of the Lord Jesus Christ, we commend the soul of Pope Francis to the infinite merciful love of the triune God, his statement said. See, they believe in something that is totally not biblical. Totally not. You know, that's nothing but the devil. Said Francis suffered a severe health crisis earlier this year and was hospitalized for 5 weeks with double pneumonia. I don't know what double pneumonia is. That just like twice as much snot in your chest? I don't know. You know what I mean? How do you get double pneumonia? You get pneumonia and then you get another pneumonia on top of that pneumonia. What is that? Tell me, somebody, what is double pneumonia? How do you get it double? Is it like double worse? Is it like you cough twice as much? I mean, double pneumonia. I hear that all the time. I always wonder, what is double pneumonia? You understand? It says his doctor said later that the Pope was so critically ill, the staff considered stopping his treatment so he could pass. He was so critically ill, they wanted to stop his treatment. Let's let him go. Let's just let him go. You understand? It's crazy. But the Pope recovered from the worst illness and was discharged last month and was convalescing as his residence. I know that's like, was chilling. I'm going to use that word. At his residence at Casa Santa Marta at the Vatican. Conversaling. I know that word. I can't say it. I know it though. The Vatican said as recently as last week that his health was improving. Think about it, right? They just now said that he was out greeting people the day before and he died the next day. How? You understand? Was he healthy or did somebody unalive him? While he did not lead any major services during the holiday period, the Pope continued to hold engagements up to Easter Sunday when he met briefly with U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance. Francis gave the traditional Easter blessing from the balcony of the St. Peter's although an aide read out the Urbi, a Orbi, on his behalf, whatever that is. He also rode the Pope mobile through the crowds gathered at the square, stopping several times to bless babies handed to him. I ain't my baby to him. Vance said on X on Monday that he was happy to have seen the Pope, though he was obviously very ill. My heart goes out to the millions of Christians all over the world who loved him and all of that, condolences, whatever. But we look at these people, we pay homage to these people, the very people that destroy us. You understand? We give too much to a people who is owed nothing, who gives nothing, who only destroys people. You understand? Everybody comes out, everybody, oh, the poor, blah, 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 blah. Forget all of that. Forget all of that. You understand? These people could care less about us. We got to start recognizing that. You understand? I'm going to grab one more article. Let's see here what I got. That's all I got on the Pope, but let me grab another article. Oh, yeah. I'm going to grab this one right here. Think about this, right? And this is another thing that they really get us on. You understand? They make promises and this is, here we go again, right? Democracy. Democracy is a pyramid scheme. Democracy was never created for so-called blacks, Hispanics, and natives to succeed. Democracy was created to hold us back. Think about it. The Jim Crow laws were created under democracy. Slavery was under democracy. Slavery was considered legal. Everybody, think about it, right? Naturally, everybody knows that slavery is illegal. But under democracy, they can make you believe that it was really legal. They said it was legal, but it was illegal. No man can own another man. So this is the reason why they make you believe that you were less than a man, so that you then would believe that it was okay to be owned. Listen, the scriptures say what? Am I a homegrown slave? As your descendants come out and into slavery and are born into slavery, you begin to look at slavery as a normal thing. Just like, think about it, right? Just like living in poor conditions, living in the ghetto. We've gotten so used to think about it. In the 70s in Baltimore, in the 60s and the 70s, Baltimore was one of the cleanest cities in the country. The cleanest cities in the country. All you got to do is look at pictures from the 60s and 70s of Baltimore. That's why they used to call Baltimore Charm City, one of the cleanest cities in the country. Now you place those people and change the condition of a city like that, and then turn those cities, those clean cities, turn those clean cities into ghettos. And now look at how we feel about it today. People believe it's okay. The ghetto is where we belong. It's okay to be in the ghetto. There's nothing wrong with it. Oh, I love it here. They create a condition over years and years and years, create a condition, and then have you grow up in that condition to the point where being in the ghetto is normal. That's democracy. That's our oppressor. This is why the scriptures tell us, never trust thine enemy. For like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness. Listen, eventually that wickedness will show through. Eventually you're going to understand, and you're going to wake up and you're going to see, like, it's not right being in the ghetto. It's not right living in these conditions. It's not right living under the authority of another man who hates you. Listen, we under a justice system. How can you get justice from the very people who are out there destroying us? Let's get to this article. Check this out. says this: descendants of slave owners and enslaved people in the Caribbean call for reparations at the UN. Think about it, right? Every so often, that reparations thing comes up. But look at where they starting at now. They saying, I'm going to read this again. Descendants of slave owners and enslaved people in the Caribbean call for reparations at the UN. Think about this, right? They say descendants of slave owners. I want you to look at it like this. In the Civil Rights March, brothers and sisters was getting their heads bashed in. They had oppressors that was marching with them, right? They had oppressors marching with them. Let me ask a question. The oppressors that marched with them, did they have the power to change the condition of the people who were in the Civil Rights March? The oppressors that marched with them, did they have the power to change the condition? Did they? Did they have the power? I'm going somewhere with it, and I want you to think about what's happening. So when things happen, you start looking at it in a different way. We always say, well, they stand with us, they walk with us, they did this with us. Oh, well, when it was time for us to do this, they went with us. The people that go with you, ask yourself. The people that walk with you, ask yourself. The people that march with you, ask yourself. Do they have the power to change the condition that we're in? Basically, what I'm saying to you is this is propaganda at its finest. And this is what makes us continue to look at these people like, oh, it's some good ones out here. It's some good ones out here. Oh, it's some good white people out here. It's some good oppressors out here. I'm telling you, it's some good ones out here. Listen, they marched with us. This right here is saying descendants of slave owners and enslaved people in the Caribbean call for reparations at the UN. Think about this. Now, you think about the descendants of slave owners. Do they have the power to change the minds of the people in the UN to give anybody reparations? And all they got to do is say reparations and everybody's ears go up. Then when you see oppressors standing with you, you never once asked the question, do you have the power to change our condition? If you do not have the power to change our condition, you cannot stand with us. You cannot march with us. Now, we don't want oppressors standing with us, period. But the people who are not on this side never stop to think, do you have the power to change our condition? These people are talking about reparations. I talked about this we talked about this is some time ago, when all of these African nations, and I always say this, and we always say this, when those African nations started apologizing for slavery, who were they apologizing to? People keep saying, we are African, right? So let me ask you, somebody kidnaps your baby gone for a whole year, your baby kidnapped and gone for a whole year. Then all of a sudden they find out who kidnapped and they get your baby back and everything like that. That person steps up and apologizes. Who does that baby apologize to? Does he apologize to the baby, or does he apologize to the person that whose baby he stole. Who does he apologize to? He apologizes to the person whose baby he stole. So now, when you think about it, and I want you to think about it like this, right? Us, the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and natives, we are the baby. So who are they apologizing to? I never hear the Kenyans apologizing to the Ghanaians or Ghanaians or whatever they call them. I never hear nobody apologizing to the Kenyans. I never hear nobody apologizing to the South Africans. I never hear anybody apologizing to any African nation. They don't apologize to each other. They apologize to us because, unlike us, they know that we are not African. Now, think about this, right? I'm not going to take you too far because they're talking about reparations. This is a scenario, right? Think about this. Think about this scenario. If you continually say you're African, you're African, you're African, right? This is how the oppressor thinks. You continually say you're African, you're African, African. This is what the oppressor would do. The oppressor would pay. Now, I did some numbers. I think they would have to give us, it's about 44 million blacks, about, I don't know how many natives, I don't know how many Hispanics, but just for the tribe of Judah alone, it would be $656 trillion. That's with a 30% tax on that too. So then when you add everybody else in, we could get, it's a lot of trillions. This is what America would do. You continually call yourself Africans, what they're going to say is, okay, we're going to give Africa, let's say, $10 billion, or let's give it $50 billion. And if you want reparations, you got to go to Africa and get your reparations. And then Africa tells you, oh, but before you come here asking for reparations, you got to prove that you're 51% African. Well, the only way you can prove that you're 51% African is if you get a DNA test, right? So now you go and get a DNA test. Who are you going to get a DNA test from? You can get it from the oppressor, or you can get it from the African. Because check this out. You continually say you're African. Well, we got to do a DNA, make sure you're African. You're going to come up with all the Irish blood in the world before you come up with African blood. You understand what I'm saying? You will come up with all the Russian blood in the world. Some of y'all gonna come up with Ukrainian blood. And nobody's gonna get a thing because you keep claiming something that we are not. They know we are not that. And then we're gonna get duped again. Not that we looking for reparations, but that's just a scenario in thinking from our oppressor's point of view. And this is the thing that we got to think about, right? Because we never think about, well, and this is just like it says, the scripture says, as iron rusted, so is his wickedness. Eventually the oppressor's wickedness is going to show through. So what we have to do at times is we have to think, how would the oppressor think? This is how the oppressor thinks. We got to step back and we got to be rational about the things that we do. The scriptures in, what does it say? Acts, I believe Acts chapter 4, verse 31 to 35 was an Acts. Let me check. Let me make sure I got the right one. I don't want to get it wrong. I don't want to get it wrong. Let's go to Acts chapter 4, verse 31. Yep. Acts chapter 4, verse 31 to 35. That explains how we build ourselves up. We can't we can't depend on the oppressor or anything from the oppressor to build us up. We still got black farmers waiting on $500 million that Bush held up. I mean, not Bush. When did that COVID hit? That Trump held up on his first term. On his first term, he held up $500 million from black farmers. Black farmers still waiting on that. We can't wait on our oppressor to build us up. We have to build ourselves up. This Bible tells us how to do it. Acts chapter 4, verses 31 through 35 tells us how to do it. You understand? This Bible has everything in it to get us to where we have to get. You understand? We try everything else, Christianity, democracy, and all of these other things, and it has gotten us nowhere. All this voting, where's voting going to get us? Ain't got us nowhere so far. Listen, been marching since the 50s. People's feet gotta be tired by now. Gotta be tired. And here they go, marching again to the UN, really believing that our oppressor is going to do something for us. Listen, if our oppressor even paid us half of the reparation that we're owed, they would have to give us all of this country. Because think about it, right? We still being oppressed right now. We still being pillaged right now. If you work 2 jobs, you're being pillaged. If you don't have a job, you're being pillaged. If you're working for minimum wage and you're so-called Black, Hispanic, or Native, you're being pillaged. If you live in the ghetto, you're being pillaged. If you live on a reservation, you're being pillaged. If you're living in cages on the border and you can't come into a country that you once owned, you're being pillaged. When we gonna wake up? When we gonna get some kind of understanding as a people? When we gonna start showing love to our people and start coming back to these laws, statutes, and commandments? I don't want to get too far. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. When we gonna come back to these laws, statutes, and commandments and get some real understanding? Listen, this says the great-great-grandson of 19th century British Prime Minister William Gladstone said he was horrified to learn 7 years ago that his ancestors were slave owners in Jamaica and Guyana. He wasn't horrified. He knew it. It just came out. It just came out. They act like, listen, this is the great-great-grandson of 19th century British Prime Minister William Gladstone. You mean to tell me he didn't know William Gladstone was a slave owner? Because anybody who has a British Prime Minister as a descendant going to know it. That's handed down in your family whenever, just like a president. If you have a president in your family, by the time you turn 2, you're going to know that this president was your great or great whatever. This is not something that was hidden. And he's a prime minister. Come on, man. You mean to tell me, oh, you just found out? Oh, I didn't know he owned slave. Everybody know. You know your relatives own slave. Just like all of us, we know all of our relatives that hustle. We know all the ones that break in houses. We know all the ones that rob people. Everything. We know all the bad and the good. So you mean to tell me you got somebody who was a prime minister in your family, you didn't know they owned slaves? Come on, get the hell out of here. I don't believe that. I can't even believe that. Listen, it says, and former BBC journalist Lord Trevelyan said she learned after records of Britain's Slave Compensation Commission were put online in 2013 that one of her ancestors, Sir John Trevelyan, owned sugarcane plantations in Grenada and about 1,000 enslaved people. Everybody always want to act like, oh, I didn't know that. Think about this, right? Anybody that owned plantations or any kind of land, you know that history. Just like I know my great grandfather came up, well, my great grandfather, his father came out of slavery. He was a sharecropper and he got land left to him by the slave owner. That's how we got land in St. Mary's County and my family from slavery. I mean, I know that little bit about my family. I was blessed enough to see my great grandfather before he passed. You understand? So think about it. If I know just that little bit, your great grandfather owned acres and sugar cane. He making a killing off of. Come on, you making all of this money off of your family making all this money off of sugar cane, and you ain't know they had slaves. Who else is picking sugar cane back in them days? Come on, stop playing me like I'm dumb. You know what? Our oppressor's so simplistic. You're gonna tell me, oh, I didn't know. Oh my God, I'm so horrified. They know they own Negroes. Man, this is crazy. Listen to this, right? This was a horrific event, said Trilla, whatever her name is, who moderated the meeting on the side. Listen, check this out. And she's moderating the meeting. You mean to tell me you ain't know, but you moderating the meeting? Come on, man, get out of here. You moderating. So either way, I'm going to get a cut. You understand? If anything should happen, which I know nothing is going to happen, you understand? Think about it, right? And they never even, this person is moderating. They're not even asking this person, do you have the power to change our condition? Are we on a snipe hunt? Are we just, chasing a carrot on a string? Are we just, out here, chasing our own tail? They don't, this is the things that we don't do. We don't ask any questions like that. We don't stand back and evaluate the situation. We just act off of emotion. Instead of being rational, we act on emotion. We don't sit back and say, how can we make this better? How can we change our own condition? We just live just the way we are and expect everybody to help us out. The very people that put us in this condition. Think about this, right? Let's just say the money that she got from her great grandfather, sugarcane plantation, that money that she got. Do you really think she's gonna give that up? They're gonna find that out. Do you really think they're gonna say, well, you gotta give them, you think she's gonna give that up? You really think she's gonna give you part of her legacy? Well, I wasn't living back then. Well, I ain't have nothing to do with it. You think she really gonna give part of her legacy to niggas? Gotta be kidding. Gotta be kidding. Listen, this is the thing. We really believe that these people gonna make it this easy that, oh, now it's up in the United. Listen, Malcolm X was trying to get into the United Nations and do the same thing, right? That's what he was trying to do. So you mean to tell me all of these countries that's in the United Nations none of them know about what happened in America? So you mean to tell me we got to get to the United Nations and fill out our application and say what happened to us? Listen, the Palestinians didn't have to do that. The Ukrainians didn't have to do that. So why do we have to do it? See, we keep looking at situations like, you understand, like these situations have never occurred before. It's just that everybody knows who we are and we don't. This is the reason why we in the condition we in. Because we believe that everybody is going to help us and nobody is coming to save us. Only we can save we. Only us can save us. So let's do what we do best. Let's come together and let's make this thing work. Zephaniah 2:1. Gather yourself together. Yeah, gather together, O nation not desired. Let's make it happen. You feel me? We got to make it happen. Check this out, right? Because I'm gonna do a class tonight. I'm gonna shut this down for a minute. I'm gonna get my little class together, and then we're going to be back. Give me about 10, 15 minutes. I'm going to hook it up, and then we're going to come back, and we're going to do class. And with that, with the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge, this is the One West News Desk under Captain Saparia. I'm Officer Matham Shakaya, holding it down for my captain. Until then, Shalom, Israel. Right.